Chef Elle Simone Scott, Detroit native and the executive editor of PBS's America's Test Kitchen. She's also the founder of the mentoring organization SheChef and the author of a new cookbook, Food Gifts: 150 Plus Irresistible Recipes for Crafting Personalized Presents. Chef Scott, thanks so much for joining us today on One Detroit.
Thank you so much for having me.
You have a new cookbook about the gift of giving food, a tradition that goes back generations. Tell us about what inspires you to create a cookbook centralized around that theme.
Well, whenever I'm approached with an opportunity to create a cookbook, I tend to lean into my personal life experiences. And I grew up in a family of potluckers and um, travelers, who always brought back food as souvenirs. And so it was kind of like a pretty obvious choice for me to make a book about giving food as gifts. I mean, it's the ultimate gift, right?
And what are people going to find as far as recipes and gift giving advice in your cookbook?
Oh man, so it's so far reaching. You find recipes like bacon jam. There's Bloody Mary kit gift basket. There's the chapter that we refer to as the meal train, which is something that you tend to do for individuals who are not feeling well, or maybe a new birthing, person, something you can bring to make your recipient's life a little easier. Even sweet treats from around the world. Like it goes from like level 1 to level 10 in terms of cook level. Also, many opportunities for how to package these gifts, right? From using sustainable, materials that you may have around your home that you're saving, to where you can source decorative paper, right? Like everything again from A to Z, 1 to 10 in terms of skill level. Something as simple as tying a beautiful bow on a jar to maybe something as complex as creating a whole entire gift basket. But you'll find it all in the book.
You're coming back to Detroit, a place where you grew up for this book tour. Tell me about what it means to you to host this event at the Detroit Food Commons and the Detroit People's Food Co-op.
Coming home to Detroit always gives me such warm nostalgia. It's kind of the core of what I bring to these books that I write, things and foods that I've experienced growing up in Detroit and growing up in Michigan, right? We have such a wonderful agricultural, um, substance that a lot of people don't know about. So I'm just happy to be home and, have people interested in how they can elevate their gift giving by using food in ways that I can encourage them and instruct them to do that.
Food is both an art and a science. It's both a magnifying glass for culture, but also a bridge for connectivity. What have you found about the practice of making and gifting food that brings people together, enriches communities?
I think food in general, right, is a great connector, as you said. And I feel like food gifts is a way to do so many things. One of my favorite things to do with food gifts is to introduce the recipient to perhaps something that they've always wanted or always dreamed of. I travel a lot and I realize that that is very much a privilege and a luxury that everyone cannot afford. So when I travel, I like to bring back food ideas from my travels and share them with friends, right? So it's a great way to introduce people to, global citizens. It's a great way to introduce people to maybe new ingredients that may be new to them, right? But not perhaps new to their market. Little did they know. So it is just another way to continue to connect food and people and cultures in a way that really makes it accessible and achievable. I think accessibility is extremely important, and food gifts it does that in so many ways, right? It makes someone's life easier to for something that they didn't have before. It can bring another culture to someone's home. It's a great connector.
And, beyond a chef and an author, you are also the first African American woman to be appear regularly as a host on America's Test Kitchen. Just tell me about the impact that that show has had on your career as well as the way you view food and community.
I knew that it would be an impact in community, right? Like I know that when I was growing up, I didn't see a lot of Black and brown women. I can't remember seeing any Black or brown women on cooking shows or in the kitchen on television. So I knew for sure that having young people see someone that looks like them on television was going to be impactful, right? Representation matters. And now our cast is so extremely diverse, right? Like it's beautiful, you know. It has been impactful. It definitely has changed my career, you know. It's given me the confidence to move forward through the food space and be a representative.
As you mentioned, you are a spokesperson, a representative for women of color in the culinary arts, and also the founder of SheChef, a mentoring organization for women of color in the culinary arts. Talk to me about what it's meant to provide support for women of color in a industry that's been historically male dominated.
It has absolutely meant the world to me to be able to guide and mentor women coming through the culinary industry. I have been given a lot of opportunity. I've met a lot of very well known chefs. I've had a lot of paths paved for me. And to be able to use that same path to usher other people through has really made like all the blood, sweat, and tears worth it at the end of the day. I think I want people to know that there is substance in their neighborhoods, right? Like that's kind of what the People's Food Co-op is about. Like reminding Detroiters that everything you need is right in your community. A lot of people think or say, you know, who don't live in Detroit, like Detroit is coming back to life. And it's like Detroit has always been alive. You know, like we have always had a pulse. We have always been a diverse city. We have always had, you know, everything that you're just now seeing. So for me, it's a great way to remind the world that Detroit, you know, we're not resurrecting. We were never dead. You know, we are living, breathing, growing people. And that's what we're doing, you know.
Great. Well, Elle, thank you so much for joining us today again on One Detroit, and we can't wait to see you here in the city.
You can find more at onedetroitpbs.org or subscribe to our social media channels and sign up for our One Detroit newsletter.